I've just seen 2 episodes, so
Okay.
no spoiler. Some scenes are about time and how different is the perception for everyone.
Yeah.
So that made me think about how all of us, we have a personal watch inside us, and that is ticking and give us, our way of living. So only when we have the same timing, we can do something that matters, something important. What do you think about this? Do you agree?
Yeah, I know the scene that you're referring to, and I really love that scene because it's also just simple misunderstanding between 2 people who care about each other. I always think about that in terms of like a child's idea of time is so different, but there's like the wisdom of youth, which is something that I really like that is explored, say, with the hobbits in comparison to the elves, that every perspective is useful and like makes us more rich in our experience of the world. And yeah, I find I love the kind of differences between the races and what they value, but ultimately they're fighting often for the same thing.
I've just seen 2 episodes, and so with no spoiler, some scenes are about time and how is different the perception for everyone. And that made me think about all of us. We have, sort of a personal watch inside us that is ticking and give us our way of living. So only when we all have the same timing, we can do something that matters, something important. What do you think about this aspect of the series?
Our romance, the fact that I'm a human, and for me, my ancestors chose the side of evil over good hundreds of years ago. For me, that's a long time ago. For Arondir, it could be yesterday because he's elf. So I think that perception of time is also really interesting, and it informs the decisions we make, how we move forward in our lives. And it makes it interesting, especially this romance. It makes this romance super interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with Theo, the concept of time, because he hasn't lived very long at all. So I think because of his young age, you can also look at like how impressionable young people are, and then sort of look at almost how his mind could be twisted by what someone else is saying, and then it's sort of how things can conflict in his mind.
So I've just seen 2 episodes of the series, so no spoiler. Some scenes are about timing, time and how is different the perception for everyone. So that made me think about how all of us, we have a kind of personal watch inside us that is ticking and give us our way of living. So only when we all have the same time, the same timing, we can do something together that matters, something important. So what do you think about this aspect?
That particularly with the Harfoots, the contrast of time, because on one hand, we're under such duress, such sort of we're so vulnerable to the elements, we quite regularly lose members of our community. So life and time is very precious, but at the same time, we exist within nature, which kind of doesn't have time. I mean, it has seasons and stuff like that, but there's something so present and infinite about time within nature that we both live in a very timeless existence and a very time-specific existence, because people often can die in our world because we're so vulnerable.
Of course, Lord of the Rings is about lights and shadows, but especially in the series, in this story, we can see how many shades a soul can have only if he wants. The most important truths are simple, they say. So Daniel, is your character simple too?
I think my character is very simple, yeah.
No, it's not.
The that you talk about is really present. And that's going to be part of the driver as to how we see this character move and change and grow. But I think we're going to know what this character wants.
I've just seen 2 episodes, so with no spoiler, some scenes are about time and how is different the perception for everyone. So that made me think about how all of us, we have a personal watch inside us that is ticking and give us our way of living. So only when we have all the same timing, we can do something that matters, something important. What do you think about this?
It definitely influences my character Isildur through the beginning of the show, he understands that maybe society shouldn't be sort of expectational, and I think that drives him to rebel and be reckless and yearn for something that's out there that he doesn't quite know.
I agree. It absolutely affects what people value and also their relationship to the world.
I just seen 2 episodes. I can't wait to see the rest. So with no spoiler, some scenes are about time and how it's different, the perception for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that made me think about how all of us, we have kind of, personal watch inside us that is ticking and give us our way to living. So only when we all have the same timing, we can do something that matters, something important. And I think time is a huge part of this story of the Lord of the Rings. What do you think about this aspect?
Well, it's interesting. I felt that even while I lived in Italy for a while, and felt that even culturally, America's been around for a couple hundred years. Italy is, from the time of Rome, people have been living there for thousands of years. And, I often got the sense of America's sort of like a new kid on the block on the world scene. And there's a sort of sense of cultural memory that goes back for centuries and millennia when you're living in other parts of the world. And Tolkien has that similar sense where, humans live for, 100 years, in some cases 200 years if you're in Numenor, but elves are immortal. And there's this different sense when you or your people have been around for such a long time in terms of how the different people interact. And it causes all kinds of difficulties in Tolkien, where elves and dwarves or elves and people are experiencing things in different sort of time frames and have different goals and different agendas and have to figure out how to work together for the common good.
I think so much of Tolkien also is about history. And every place that you go in Middle Earth has thousands of years behind it of people who've come before you, and that feeling of depth. And whether it's a ruin over there, or now you're arriving at this civilization, and here's where they're coming from and what's important to them, and I think that's what makes it feel real, and why people want to go there again and again and again. And we certainly worked very hard with every one of our collaborators to hopefully build that kind of sense of history and reality into every place you're going in the show.
Because when you go to Rome, you see these layers of civilization that have happened. Where there's something from 2,000 years ago, there's something from the Middle Ages, there's something from the Renaissance, there's something from the 60s, and there's something now, and it's all built on top of each other. And Numenor is the same way, where you can see, and we tried architecturally to kind of capture something similar, where you would have things that show the elvish roots of Numenor when the society of Numenor, was a certain way, and then as they developed and continued to change, there were different architectural influences that are built right on top of the old ones. And so hopefully you see that visually in our visual storytelling.
I'm so glad to hear that, because I'm from Rome. So, yeah.